To be honest, I grew up watching a lot of things that I shouldn't have just from being exposed to the internet. I was on, and it's a plot point in our movie, I was on Reddit way too young.
This is David Crow in the Den of Geek, and I'm joined here with Lili Reinhart and Uta Briesewitz, the star and director of American Sweatshop.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
I saw this movie, and I sincerely found it very powerful and a very moving experience, because I think this is something we're all intimately familiar with, but we don't necessarily think a lot about, which is we all know about the landmine of social media, but I certainly never think about someone whose job is to moderate it. And I'm curious, did y'all think about that much before the script of this came along?
I'm not sure. I think maybe I was vaguely familiar with content moderation, but certainly not to the extent that when I read a script about it. But I think I knew that the job existed, and then I found out that actually a friend of mine does that as a part-time job. But it is, I think people walk away feeling so fascinated knowing that this is a job that exists, that people dig, it's their job to sit at a desk and watch videos that you're not supposed to see and try to protect a general audience from seeing these disturbing videos. And they kind of take that on and the mental horrible effects that can have on your well-being and mental health.
Yeah, I was just aware that you can flag stuff, but what really happens down the line with the flagged things, I was not really aware of.
Lili, could you talk about your character Daisy in the film and where we find her when the story begins and she's at a job at a company called Paladin?
Daisy's working at Paladin, which is to be a content moderator. So from, I don't know her hours, 8 to 5, 9 to 5, she's watching videos that are flagged from Instagram, Facebook, wherever, and has to, kind of deem what category of inappropriate they are and either remove the video from the internet or not. And she is a bit of a stoner, which we love, and she is a single girl and, is familiar with a Tinder and trying to make human connection in her outside world and disassociate a little bit when she can. And she wants to be ultimately a nurse and leave this job that she has, but she is kind of trapped there.
It's an entry-level job, but watching it, I would assume it would have high compensation because it's a terrible gig.
I don't think these people are paid nearly what they should, but I think that's why it's not a job that you have forever, and I think a lot of people walk away from it due to the mental downside of watching disturbing videos all day long.
Uta, did you talk with anyone who really does this job for a living, and are certain anecdotes in the film based on real events?
A lot of the anecdotes in the film are based on real events. Matthew Nemeth, who wrote the script, did research, and he shared, the articles that he used a lot, for the script. So I had those. I did some research and also watched a documentary called The Cleaners, about content moderation. And I didn't want to take it much further than that because I felt like I knew what the world was. We had our stories that are true stories that we've already lifted from articles. And I didn't want more, story input take over because the stories also, takes us outside away from that place. So I wanted to stay focused on that as well. It gets set in motion, at this office, but then, there's the whole other story to it, how Daisy goes into the world and tries to do something.
Was it a deliberate choice to show almost nothing of what Daisy's seeing? You're only seeing her humanity reacting to it.
Absolutely, because it could have been easy for us to really make our point, by choosing the horrible videos that we are commenting on, but then we would leave an audience traumatized. I didn't want people to go and see the movie and then go I wish I'd had a warning that I would watch a beheading because now I can't unsee it. And also I had faith that if we just hint at the videos via title or just the sound, that people will fill in their own horrors of what they, imagine at that moment. And most likely those images that people will imagine are even darker than what we Gossip would have, used in the movie.
There's one particular scene where we're watching your character's reaction and we're just seeing reflections of it in your eyes. And does it feel like for your character when you're playing it, is it like something's being imprinted, something diabolical onto her soul?
Yeah, it was definitely intentional. We were just talking about this with the shot of seeing it in my character's eyes, that it's being burned into her brain or into her retinas. You know, we wanted that point to get across without. There's something that's strange and interesting, and I think much more interesting to see a video that's traumatizing someone from a different point of view than just seeing it on a computer screen. Like, you're actually seeing it in how they're processing it in their eyes. And it was a really cool shot. And we shot that really close-up eye shot in the hair and makeup trailer. Yeah. Like, we were working on an indie, you know, and it was a really fun little setup that we did in the hair and makeup trailer to get that extreme close-up on a random day. Once the video that I was watching was edited and cut together.
Movie magic.
Yeah, it was movie magic.
I think also one thing, you know, I was trying to do is that when first, you know, like when you show violence, you know, in a reflection, it's once removed. So it seems that it's easier to take in. But if it's not totally clear what you're looking at, as an audience, you lean closer. You know, like you really even want to see it more. And then when you make out what the image actually is, I actually think it then kind of shocks you a little bit more.
Lily, did you look at any of this sort of stuff for preparation, or did you just know?
To be honest, I grew up watching a lot of things that I shouldn't have, just from being exposed to the internet. I was on, and it's a plot point in our movie, I was on Reddit way too young, saw things on there that a 13-year-old girl shouldn't see, and or no one should see, to be honest. And so I didn't really have to go searching for that. I think I, as a human, having grown up in this time, have had just like my natural own experience of seeing disturbing videos on the internet. So I've just kind of had to pull from things that I've already seen, which is terrifying. That I think we all have that kind of a story, and we all have a video or an image or something that we've seen that's stuck with us. So I didn't have to reach too far, which is in a sense sad, but kind of the whole point of the film.
Well, actually, that line was the one that made me feel certainly my age when a little girl says, "Oh, I've been on Reddit since I was 9," and I'm like, right. No, sweet summer child.
Yeah.
Do you think this movie is also about how, whether it's the internet or images or just the way we interact with each other now, how technology is hardwiring young people? Because it seems to be certainly affecting Daisy and whether she can have a healthy romantic life with other people.
Social media in general and the way we consume media has given us permission to get away with not having human connection. I think you can go a whole day without talking to someone in person because you have connection online, and I think it creates sort of this, not that online is a false sense of community, but it's very different from having an actual community. And I think, like, for example, I grew up in Cleveland and had like block parties where you meet your neighbors and you ride your bike around at night, and I just like, that doesn't, at least where I live now, would never exist. Or maybe it would and I'm just not invited or something, but I don't think it's existing, at least where I am now. And I think just this culture has shifted where you feel this false sense of closeness because you're friends with people on Facebook and because you're friends with people on Instagram, that, oh, I don't need to see that person in person anymore because we can just DM every now and then. And that's sad. But I think it's unfortunately how things have kind of been, and I've experienced it in my own life, and I think and I feel for the people who are younger than me who only have known that and are entering that world where human connection maybe just feels way more foreign than a social online connection.
Has making this movie affected both of your relationships with social media, your own social media account?
Yeah, I can say that it has affected me. I was never very present ever on social media. I never had a Facebook account, never Twittered or X or whatever you want to call it. I only had an Instagram account, have an Instagram account. But what the movie, personally also reminded me of, we can't really rely on anybody policing the internet in a right way, that we are protected, and also just the addictive effect it has on you. And I just, not too long ago, I was watching myself, watching a show, and then I realized even while I was watching television, every 10 minutes I would pick up my show and I look at something else, and I felt like, what are you doing? You're on Instagram while you're watching a show, and it's just a constant back and forth. And to me, it just says like, we have control over what we do. And I think it's just like, if this movie inspires people to think about like, okay, what am I watching? Do I need to be watching? Do I need to be doing what I'm doing? Or just think about our own consumption, and that we are responsible for ourselves, and that we are our own moderators, like you said earlier, that would be great.
I've tried to just limit the exposure I have to socials, and I think in general I'm trying to make sure what I'm engaging with is positive content and not horrific. It's encouraged me to want to connect with my real world rather than rely on social to stay connected with human beings. I would rather keep the in-person connection alive rather than foster or cater to an online relationship.
Well, if we're influenced by what we watch, maybe this movie will have a good influence and convince people, oh God, I need to stay away, especially while watching a movie.
We hope so. Why not? Yeah.
I'm a bad example.
All right. Well, thank you so much for stopping by the Den, and I really did enjoy this movie.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.